What's happening, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. First things first, guys, make sure you smash a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And on Saturday, Chelsea head to Bournemouth looking to make it a first win in 6 games and a first win under Frank Lampard as caretaker manager, taking on Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium. Both teams actually sitting on the same points, which I don't think anyone would have said at the start of the season. Bournemouth doing really, really well and Chelsea struggling big time, coming off the back of a 3-1 humbling at the Emirates on Tuesday night. So this is going to be a really tough game. Bournemouth's been a bit of a bogey ground for us over the years. Battered 4-0 there under Maurizio Sarri, and there's been a couple of other games where we've struggled to pick up the 3 points there. But delighted to be joined by John from the Cherry Reds Army to discuss Bournemouth's season so far and kind of the players to look out for from a Bournemouth perspective. John, thanks for coming, mate. Really appreciate it. It should be a good game, this one. I mean, Bournemouth, 39 points, 13th in the table. More wins than Chelsea this season, actually, having obviously played a game more. But still, it's kind of a mad stat. Has this season kind of exceeded your expectations as a Bournemouth fan? I guess for most fans, it was just a stay in the division, really.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thanks for having me on, Charlie. It took a while, I think, for us to sort of really get to the point where you could say that we've sort of exceeded expectations. I think that there was an article by The Athletic put up, I think, the day of recording, asking about who was the most overperforming team in the league, and it basically came down to between us and Newcastle, really as to the most overperforming based on expectations. I think basically every single fan in the league thought we would go down. Pretty much all of you had us 20th, I would say. I say you because I think every fan, I'm sure you are in the same as well. At the start of the season, you had Bournemouth in the bottom 3 somewhere, in all likelihood 20th. So for us to be 13th at this point, as you say, level with Chelsea, although that's, I think that's more an indication of Chelsea rather than is an indication of what Bournemouth have done this season. It's been quite incredible. I think that Bournemouth fans were not sold by any means on Gary O'Neill. I think there was a consistently long period where we were not getting results, for several months, and it finally came to the point where I think there was a really good plan put in place by the recruitment team and the hires up within Bournemouth. They recruited to a plan. We brought in some really good players in January to bolster the squad, turn it into a really competitive squad, because I think at the start of the season we only really had about 14 or 15 players you could say that were of genuine quality enough to keep us up, and that's just not going to do you in this league. But now we have rotation options, we have players in form, and we have a plan that has worked really well. I mean, we've got 60, as you said, it was we've got quite a few wins on the table recently. It's 4 wins from the last 5. I think it's 6 in 9 in going further back. So yeah, we're one of the form teams in the league at the moment. So it took a while, but we're safe now, and we're all ecstatic that we'll be in the Premier League again next season.
I mean, just taking it back to the start of the season, I mean, it seems such a long time ago now, but Scott Parker was still in charge. Ultimately, why do you think it didn't really work out for Parker this season? I was only here for like 4 games or so. Obviously, the 9-0 thumping at Anfield was kind of the final nail in the coffin for him. But do you think the writing had been on the wall a long time before that? Was it just not really working out for him? And how do Bournemouth fans kind of view his time there?
It's a very mixed bag under Parker, because really at the end of the day, in terms of the full season that he had with us in the Championship, you can't say anything other than that he was a success. The football was not great for long periods. A team that really should have gone out to dominate the division ended up playing quite negative defensive football. We'd go out and we'd maybe go 2-0 up relatively early, or we'd sort of snatch a goal against the run of play, add another one to it, and as soon as we went 2 goals up, we stopped attacking. And that was basically how the season went. It was very frustrating for Bournemouth fans knowing how good the squad was for a Championship level, and just not really going for it. We was about 2/3 of the season in when we were booing. We were sort of making our opinions known out in the stadium that we just weren't liking it. And eventually he sort of let the shackles go a bit, and we actually did quite well towards the end of the season. But at the start of this Premier League season, he was making really strong noises in pre-season saying we're not making enough signings and this squad isn't good enough. Like literally outright saying that this squad isn't good enough to stay in the Premier League. We win our first game 2-0 at home to Villa, which was a good sign, and it looked okay. It wasn't great, but it looked okay. And then We went to City, lost 4-0, played at home to Arsenal, lost 3-0, went to Liverpool, lost 9-0. And he basically came out and said, no, the squad's still not good enough. There's no way we're going to survive with this at the moment. We need investment. And the higher-ups had clearly spoken to beforehand and said, you need to toe the line because this isn't good for us. And because he opened his mouth, he got himself sacked. And I have to say that a lot of Bournemouth fans weren't that fussed to see the back of him at all. And he will be looked at as the guy that got us here, but certainly nothing beyond that, because it really wasn't all that spectacular a season. And I have to say, after his time at Fulham and what Fulham fans think of him, after his time at Bournemouth and what we think of him, you've only got to look at his short stint at Club Brugge.
Terrible.
He's not exactly coming away with too much credit from his job so far. So I'll be interested to see where he turns up next, because if it's not a team near the top of the Championship, I think he'll get shown up probably. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, obviously in terms of Gary Neville, you touched on it. A bit of an underwhelming appointment at the time, you could perhaps argue. I obviously don't follow Bournemouth too closely, but kind of the general reaction was it was somewhat of a underwhelming appointment. Was that kind of the feeling at the time when he was appointed? Was he the fans' choice, or who else could have been in the frame for that?
No, it definitely wasn't. It was very underwhelming for the fans as well. When you consider that he came in obviously after the 9-0 loss, we then went on I think it was 6 or 7 games unbeaten. We drew with Wolves. We beat Forest coming back from 2-0 down. There's another few games after that we ended up winning and drawing, and it was going on a decent run. And then we hit a run of losses. We lost 2 or 3, beat Everton twice in a week in the cup and in the league. And that was the last game before the World Cup. And we all thought, great, you've done a good job. You've got us out the relegation zone. We're in a decent position. Thank you very much, Gary. We'd love to keep you on as a coach, but I think you've got a taste of management, so you're probably going to leave the club. And we cheered him off. We sang his name at the stadium before the World Cup because we were expecting someone else. We were expecting the noises at the club was we were looking at Marcelo Bielsa. And I do think that I'm not entirely sure how successful that would have been necessarily. I think if we'd hired Bielsa at the start of the 2-month break, I think it would have worked out. But he's notorious for needing a pre-season to get the club ready for the kind of rock and roll football he's going to put in place. So I do wonder how well that would have worked out. But we certainly really weren't looking for Gary O'Neill to come in because of how much of a risk that was. A guy that's not only never managed in the Premier League, but he's never managed at all. To go in for a team that's expected to finish bottom of the league with a squad that you've got to really overperform with to really get outside of the relegation zone. The fan base weren't happy, really, to be honest. But obviously we thought we'd give them a chance. And over the first 7 games after the World Cup break, first month, no wins, 2 goals, 1 point.
Sounds like us.
He was, there were a lot of people, a large portion of the fan base were calling for his head to go already. And then we got, I think it was a draw against Forest or a draw against Newcastle. I think it was 2 in a row in those 2. And you could see something was starting to build. And we just finished the end of the transfer window where we started getting in the players. And you're thinking like, okay, no, we're now starting to build a squad. Let's see what you can do with it. And to be fair, he got it going in the end. Like I said, they recruited for a plan. And it's worked out really well. And I think that the majority of the fan base, as much as there will be naysayers saying sort of like, yeah, well, we think the squad was good enough. It's just he's sort of hit par at this point. I think most fans are just going, okay, no, I'm happy to eat the humble pie on this one. And we look forward to seeing him next season. He's only got another year on his contract after this season. We'll be interested to see if the higher ups decide to extend that. But I think it's a good position for the club to be in to sort of say, look, you've got us this far. What more can you do? And if in the space of 2 months, 3 months, he's not getting us going again, then you can say, okay, thanks for your services. We don't have to do much to pay you off, and we'll bring in someone more experienced. But personally, I would like to see Gary O'Neill carry on. I mean, he's very highly rated in the game as a coach. He was at Liverpool under-23s for a while, and he was with Bournemouth for a good chunk before he was made permanent manager. So I'm pleased to sort of see him turn things around and do really well. And I'm excited to see what he does for us next year.
And in terms of kind of the players to look out for at Bournemouth, I mean, who have been sort of the standout performers this season? Obviously, recently you've had some great wins away at Tottenham, obviously a great win against Leeds as well. But in terms of the players to look out for from a Chelsea perspective, I won't bother naming any of our players to look out for because none of them are doing anything. So there's no danger in that. But in terms of Bournemouth standout performers, I mean, from a Chelsea perspective, Dominic Solanke, who used to be on our books, came through the youth system at the club. How's he been getting on down at Bournemouth? Because he did come in for big money at Bournemouth at the time, and if my memory serves me correctly, it hadn't been the best of starts. But is he starting to hit a bit of form this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, he came in from Liverpool for, I think it was 19 million originally. And when he was used by Eddie Howe, he was kind of used as sort of a number 10. It didn't look like it suited him. I don't think he really had the physicality for it. He wasn't getting goals. It took him a while to get his first one. And I think he ended up getting only 3 in his time with us in the Prem before we went down. But once he went down to the Championship, he was able to really sort of like get into gear. He was I think he was up there close to our top scorer the first year, although we did have Dan Juma as well, who's obviously at Spurs now, who was tearing up in the Championship at the time as well. But last season, he really hit his stride. He hit 29 in the league last season. So that's top 5 all-time championship since the Championship was rebranded. Top 5 top scorers, I think, in the Championship's history. So he was doing fantastically well. His all-round game has come on in such leaps and bounds. And he's been a chief creator for us this season. I think he's got, in April, he got 3 goals, 3 assists. And he's nominated for Player of the Month. He won't win it, but he deserves the acknowledgement. But yeah, his all-round game has been fantastic. I think he's turning into exactly the modern 9.5 that you see from a lot of strikers nowadays. But as for other players, unfortunately, Marcus Tavernier, who's been a really important player for us, has been injured. He's probably out for the rest of the season. He's done his hamstring again. I'm not sure how serious it is, but we don't need to risk him anymore. The goalkeeper Neto has been one of our biggest signings. He's on a free, but he's been fantastic. He's done a really, really good job for us. And the centre-back we picked up from it was Feyenoord, I believe it was. Certainly the Dutch league. It was Feyenoord or PSV? I think it was Feyenoord. At the start of the season, Marcos Senesi, Argentinian, he's very good on the ball, very comfortable, and has been a solid defender for us as well. I think the other player that a lot of people are taking more notice of is Philip Billing, though.
Really like him.
Yeah, he ever since he got pushed up into a number 10 role by Woodgate. That was it. Jonathan Woodgate, who was our temporary charge a couple of years ago. He pushed him up into the number 10 role and just thrived. Last year, he got 10 goals, 10 assists in the Championship, which is a pretty decent feat. Not many players do that. And this season, he was our top scorer for a while. I think he might still be, actually. I think he's on 7 goals. I think Solanke might be tied with him or 1 behind. But yeah, he's so vital to the way we play. Basically, for almost the entire season, anything good we did went through him. He really has been incredible, and he's so versatile as well. He's a player that I would be surprised if we doesn't get serious attention from bigger clubs this summer. I hope we don't lose him because he's really good. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets more attention. But yeah, I suppose those are the ones that have really sort of shone the most for us this season.
What about Jefferson Lerma? Because I've seen, obviously, in midfield, I think he was a reasonably expensive purchase not so long ago. I mean, he's been on the score sheet a little bit recently. Is he starting to come into a little bit of form? Is he one to perhaps look out for in the midfield, or is he kind of one that blows hot and cold a little bit?
He has occasionally this season. There's been times where I've looked at him and gone, what happened to him? Because there were definitely moments this season where you just like he hasn't been involved. He's famous for the amount of yellow cards that he's got. I think when he originally signed for us, I think he had a rate of every other game he got a yellow card while he was in Spain. He's still our record signing at 25 million as well, and that was 5 or 6 years ago from Levante. So, but he's out of contract this summer, and rumors are that he wants to go back to Spain. But we're trying to get him to sign at least another year. But yeah, he's a fan favorite because he is so all action. He is very aggressive. I'd like him to be a bit more attacking when he's on the ball. He quite often plays it, a little bit more cautiously. But if he really wants to, he has got a really good array of passing. And, he scored a couple of goals against Leeds. I mean, his first finish was lovely. I said that's, if you look back on that one, that is a finesse finish in FIFA. That's what we all want when we're trying to place it, curl it, start it outside the right post and drift it inside the corner. It was a lovely finish. But yeah, he's definitely got a goal in him. He always scores a couple of goals every season. I think he's on 5 this year, 4 or 5. But yeah, he's certainly also helped by the players around him as well. Joe Rothwell came in. He was on a free at the start of the season. He didn't play all of the first half of the season because he was injured, but he's come in and actually provided a really good support in the double pivot next to Lerma. So they've worked together really well. But yeah, Lerma's very aggressive, really likable player from when he's on your side, but I'd imagine that his antics can get very frustrating if you're the opposition.
And in terms of the game on Saturday, obviously, we're in terrible form. Bournemouth have got to be fancying their chances. They'll definitely be favourites for this game, which I don't think happens too often when Bournemouth and Chelsea have played over the years. You must be feeling confident going into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I saw someone put up a screenshot of the Super Six, and that I think it's about 40% have chosen Bournemouth to win the game or something like that. 40 to 50 is as outrageous to think that's even a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I think Chelsea fans also. I remember when Bournemouth went up. I think I saw a lot of comments on Twitter saying, "Oh, great, now we've got to give up another 3 points this season or something like that," because Bournemouth, for some reason, we just got a decent record in terms of no other big six side till we get as many points off as Chelsea, or just generally wins. I think we've got one every other year when we were up in the last time we were up in the Prem. But yeah, just we're in form and Chelsea isn't. It's just as simple as that. And I certainly think that as much as Gary O'Neill is someone that a lot of people outside of Bournemouth aren't really too sure about exactly what his style is, or know too much about him as a manager. But I think even Chelsea fans would have Gary O'Neill over Frank Lampard, even if Lampard is a club legend, because he's just not able to get anything out of the. He's just not ever really shown himself to be a coach or a decent manager in any of his jobs, which might sound a bit harsh, but I really don't think he has done. So yeah, I mean, I am. I'm more confident that I think I should than we really have right to be when you consider the budgets of the two sides and the amount of talent that is in both teams. But I am more confident than I really expected to be at this point in the season going up against Chelsea. And it is going to be an interesting one though, because like the players now, the manager has even admitted we're safe. So you do wonder what impact that has on the players in terms of like, does that cause them to relax too much, or does that cause them to let go and just be more carefree, be more adventurous with the passing, and be more free flowing? But we have the phrase on the beach for a reason, so it is going to be interesting to see, and we do have a very nice beach, so it's really going to be interesting. I am confident that we'll get at least a point out of this game.
You should do, yeah.
But like I said, it's interesting to see where this will go in terms of the players, and also if any get any further resting, because there's no need to risk anyone that have got minor injuries at this point anymore.
Yeah, I mean, just from a Chelsea perspective, very briefly, mate. When you look at the Chelsea side, are there any players that kind of? I know obviously we're in terrible form and none of them are playing well, but are there any you look at anything? Oh, we perhaps need to be a little bit careful not to, give so and so a bit too much space. Do you look at any players on the Chelsea team sheet and think, yeah, we need to be careful here?
Well, I think the wing backs are the main ones in terms of actually is Reece James.
Yeah, Reece James has been out for the whole season. He's out for the season as of a few weeks ago. So it'll probably be Chilwell on one side if we go with the three, and I guess Azpilicueta, or it could be Chalobah, or it could even be Loftus-Cheek at right wing back if we go for that. If it's a flat four, it'll probably be Azpilicueta and Chilwell, which is
right. Chilwell is one of the more dangerous players, I think, without a doubt. I think when you do have Chilwell at left wing back and you have James at right wing back, that's probably the best set of wing backs in the league. But James has obviously had his injury issues this season, massively so. I think if N'Golo Kante plays, I think he's just a player that, rather than necessarily him being a huge threat, he's just a player you've got to try and avoid, because he will just get that ball back off you at a moment's notice. As for the others, I mean, it's difficult to know because there's no one in any form. Obviously under normal circumstances, I'd say Mason Mount. I really like the look of Noni Madueke when he was in Dutch, and obviously he scored his first goal for the club. So he's a player I've been aware of for a couple of years, and liked him over in Holland. But I don't even know whether he's going to play, because you just keep swapping players out left, right, and centre. I don't know whether it's just out of randomness, out of resting, or just don't know what to do, or just trying to find something that will work and see if something clicks. It's just odd coming into a game just thinking, where is the form? Where are the threats? And it's difficult
There
to
are
find
none.
any. Yeah,
There
exactly.
aren't
It's
any.
difficult to find any.
That's the problem. There's just none. It's just like it's been so mad this season. Like everything that's could have possibly gone wrong has gone wrong. And I thought every time I go to games, like, it won't get worse next week. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse every week. So kind of expecting a new low on Saturday. But final thing, mate, a score prediction for the game. What are you thinking?
Oh, that's a tough one, because every time I go for a win, my hubris always comes back and kicks me. But I am going to go for a win. I normally go for something like a draw in these things, but to be honest, I think if I didn't come with confidence that we were going to win, I'd be letting myself, I'd be letting us down. So I'm going to go with 3-1. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but I think with the way that Chelsea will try and dominate possession without too much cutting edge, that will suit Bournemouth's game down to the ground. They really want to counter-attack sides. And if Chelsea do try and come at us in the way that Chelsea historically have done, I think it could well play into our hands. So I am expecting a win, and I will go with the 3-1.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting us to lose. Will we score a goal? Who knows? I mean, we've already matched our goal tally from last month, the first time of asking this month when he scored. So yeah, maybe we can get one more. I do think we'll lose as well. I suspect that. Yeah, I think we'll let a couple in, despite the fact we're letting a few goals in. We still do have the third best defense in the league. So where the problems are is pretty clear. But yeah, I think we'll lose 2-1. And it'll be 7 defeats on the bounce, and we can all see those 007 memes all over Twitter with Lampard. So that'll be great to look at on the way home. But yeah, John, thanks so much for your time, mate. Massively appreciate it. If the people want to check out more of what you guys do, where's the best place for them to go? And I'll link it all in the description.
Yeah, it's Cherry's Red Army. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, and we're also on Instagram. But yeah, our YouTube videos are like most fan channels. We do previews, reviews, and the odd other video as well, including we did put out a debate video earlier on Thursday with some fans talking about the season and some interesting questions for the future.
Yeah, perfect, guys. Make sure you check that out. I'll link it all in the description. Yeah, let's hope Chelsea can pick up their first win under Frank Lampard, but more than likely it's going to be 7 losses on the spin. But let's wait and see what happens, guys. But as I said, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll catch you in another video again soon.